There are places in the world where history piles up faster than it can be resolved. This is one of them, a narrow stretch of water, 130 kilometers at its widest point. On one side, the world's most populous country. On the other, an island of 23 million people. A democracy, a technology hub, and a political question that was never fully answered. For more than 70 years, no one has wanted a war here. And yet, almost every major power on Earth is now entangled in what happens in this strait. Not because they plan to fight, but because a single misstep, a single miscalculation, could force them to. This is not a story about destiny. It's a story about decisions, about delays, about compromises that worked until they didn't, and about how one unresolved ending from the 20th century could still ignite the 21st. At the end of the 19th century, Taiwan was not governed from Beijing. After China's defeat by Japan in 1895, the island became a Japanese colony and remained one for 50 years. During that time, Taiwan developed separately from the mainland. Different institutions, different administration, different lived experience. That separation matters, not because of ancient claims, but because it shaped what happened next. When World War II ends in 1945, Japan surrenders. Taiwan is handed to the Republic of China, but China itself is already collapsing inward. By the late 1940s, China's civil war is reaching its end, but not cleanly. Mao Zedong's communist forces take Beijing. The People's Republic of China is proclaimed. Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist government retreats, not into exile abroad, but across a narrow stretch of water. Nearly 2 million soldiers, officials, and civilians cross to Taiwan. They do not surrender. They do not dissolve. They bring with them a government, a constitution, and a claim. Both sides now insist they are China. Neither recognizes the other, and neither is willing to concede the war is over. From this moment on, Taiwan is not just an island. It is the unfinished ending of a civil war. In 1950, war breaks out on the Korean peninsula. The United States intervenes. So does China. Suddenly, East Asia is no longer a post-war region. It is a Cold War battlefield. Washington sends the 7th Fleet into the Taiwan Strait, not to resolve the Chinese Civil War, but to freeze it. For Taiwan, this is survival. For Beijing, it is unfinished business, now postponed by force. Throughout the 1950s, the People's Liberation Army tests the limits, shelling offshore islands, probing resolve. The United States responds with security guarantees, then with nuclear signaling. Each crisis ends without war, but not without precedent. The lesson learned on all sides is dangerous. Pressure works, as long as you stop short of catastrophe. In 1971, the world makes a decisive move. The People's Republic of China takes China's seat at the United Nations. Taiwan is expelled. This is not a declaration about Taiwan's future, but it reshapes its present. In 1972, President Richard Nixon travels to Beijing. The Shanghai Communique introduces a phrase that will define the next half-century: One China. The United States acknowledges that all Chinese on either side of the Taiwan Strait maintain there is but one China, acknowledges, not endorses. In 1979, Washington recognizes Beijing. Formal diplomatic ties with Taipei end. But almost immediately, the United States Congress passes the Taiwan Relations Act. It commits the United States to help Taiwan defend itself, without promising to fight for it. Not clarity, not abandonment, a balance. Designed to deter everyone and satisfy no one completely. In the late 1980s, Taiwan lifts martial law. Opposition parties form. Elections follow. By the 1990s, Taiwan is no longer just a government in exile. It is a functioning democracy, and democracies ask questions authoritarian systems do not. Who are we? And who decides our future? In 1996, as Taiwan prepares for its first direct presidential election, Beijing fires missiles into nearby waters. The message is intimidation. Washington responds by sending 2 aircraft carrier groups. For a brief moment, the world watches a United States-China confrontation play out in real time. It does not escalate, but the lesson is reinforced. Taiwan is not a local issue. It is a trigger point between great powers. In the 2000s, Taiwan's politics swing again. In 2000, voters elect a president from a pro-independence party. Beijing reacts with fury. Washington urges restraint from both sides. 5 years later, China passes a law authorizing force if Taiwan moves toward independence. Then, the pendulum swings again. In 2008, Taiwan elects a China-friendly leader. Trade expands, flights resume, tensions ease, but nothing is resolved. The sovereignty question is simply paused. Under Xi Jinping, China grows wealthier, stronger, and more confident. In 2019, Xi states openly that reunification cannot be passed down forever. Force is not renounced. At the same time, Taiwan elects leaders who reject Beijing's political framework. Identity hardens on both sides. As relations between the United States and China deteriorate globally, Taiwan becomes more than a dispute. It becomes a symbol. For Washington, credibility. For Beijing, sovereignty. For Taipei, survival. In 2022, a senior American lawmaker visits Taiwan. Beijing responds with unprecedented military exercises. Missiles fly over the island. Naval and air forces rehearse blockade scenarios. This is not an invasion, but it is a rehearsal for pressure, and it changes the baseline. By the mid-2020s, Chinese aircraft and ships operate closer to Taiwan than ever before. Encounters grow sharper. No one fires. But every interaction now carries risk. A collision, a misread maneuver, a political signal interpreted as a point of no return. There are many ways a Taiwan crisis could begin. Few involve a deliberate decision to start a world war. More likely are chains of reaction, an accident, a limited blockade, a political statement misread as a final step. Each move seems manageable, each narrows options, and once major powers mobilize, control becomes harder than restraint. Taiwan is dangerous not because war is inevitable, but because it is avoidable, and yet becoming harder to avoid. It sits at the intersection of unresolved history, shifting power, and mutual mistrust. No side believes it can afford to lose. No side believes the other will stop voluntarily. That is the risk, not intention, but momentum. The future of Taiwan will not be decided by a single dramatic moment. It will be shaped by restraint, clarity, and whether leaders remember that the most dangerous wars are the ones no one plans to start.